Hello and welcome. We have decided to launch a series of videos for our audience so you can see some of the exciting projects we've had the pleasure to work on and some of the magnificent people we have the joy of working with. For those of you who don't know, I'm Tom, one of the co-founders of Squireditions. Aside from taking in the rolling hills of West Sussex, perhaps getting a glimpse of the Solent behind, or maybe even one of my dogs, perhaps it's a good idea for me to spill the beans on who will be featuring in our first video. It just so happens this particular client is very familiar being behind the screen. Some of you may remember him from a football incident back in the late 80s, others from an iconic film in the late 90s, early 2000s. Before we jump in the car and head over to his house, a little bit about Squireditions in a brief summary. Squireditions was hatched late December of 2019. And we are based in Chichester, West Sussex. Our aim is to create a vehicle for you that will complement your lifestyle and ensure you get the very best out of your surroundings and enhance the way you live your life. We organically fell into field sports, but now do everything from mountain biking to mountaineering, dog walking to surfing. Our passion is for adventure and the great outdoors. Come on in you get. Bella, Orla, get in. Good girls. So we're going to head over to the client's address now, but before we do, whilst we're on the road, it'll be a good idea to go through some of the top questions that we get asked, so the FAQs. Do I have to buy a vehicle or can you convert my own? We can cater for your individual needs, whether it be sourcing a vehicle or enhancing your own. Do either. If we're going to be working with your own vehicle, then naturally it needs to be a solid base. Or we can certainly go out to source a vehicle for you, not a problem either which way. Example, at the moment we're working with a client that's got a Series 2, lots of nostalgia, lots of his own family stories attached to the car. So we are doing a nut and bolt rebuild on that and retaining the patina look. We're really excited to show our audience this car. It's going to be a really, really cool thing once it's finished. Inside, immaculate. Outside, retained patina. So that's going to be a nice vehicle. Do you work with other brands other than Land Rover? Yes, we do. We sort of fell into the Land Rover brand because of the shooting fraternity, but now do all sorts of other brands. Have done work on the Volkswagen, the Amarok, Isuzu D-Max, and currently doing a fair size build on a Toyota Land Cruiser 200 series. So yes, we definitely do other vehicles. What is the cost? $1 million question. It all depends on what you want to achieve, whether it be small cosmetic bits or a larger nut and bolt rebuild. Things varying from hundreds of pounds to hundreds of thousands of pounds. So it really is world is your oyster kind of thing. We try and work with a client, work to a budget as best as possible, but certainly in any extensive builds there are unknown quantities that can be found. But that being said, we do as much as we can to stick to the price quoted. We are not far away from getting to the client's house, and I wonder if any of you have actually guessed who this person's going to be, but all will be revealed very soon. You're a massive fan of the countryside. How long has that been for?
Sort of goes back to childhood, really. Ever since I can remember, I was out with the old man with the dogs and ferrets and guns and fishing rods and everything. I caught my first trout at Rutland Water when I was 10. He taught me to fly fish. You know, going out shooting and fishing since I was 5 years old, really.
Been in the
My
blood.
earliest memory, we always had Jack Russells, Spaniels.
We say Defender. Why Land Rover Defender? What brought you to a Defender?
I've always been a Range Rover man. You know, when I first started playing football, my dream was to have a Range Rover. And then obviously been brought up with Defenders. My mum had a 90 Defender. We used to get in the back with the little metal seats in the back.
Yeah.
Take us to school in that,
Yeah,
little
rattle your teeth
canvas
out.
top. hang on to the metal bars. You know, it's a symbol of Great Britain, I think, as well, you know, and especially for the countryside, you know. Yeah, and really just growing up with them. You know, we've always had them. I mean, you know, years ago when I was a kid, you know, sitting on the spare wheel on the front, trying to get comfortable so the wing nuts didn't stick up your backside. Put a little cushion on there, but that is, you know, going across the fields and that, you know, when at the harvest, it used to be great. Oh, we want to sit on the front and all that, and the old man driving. But, you know, my two kids, they learnt to drive in a Land Rover 90. I had a little 90 round my fields at the farm. You know, they were driving the Land Rover. I had a block of wood for the accelerator and the brake for me boy. You know, they were kind of 10, 11 years old when they were driving around the farm. Yeah,
perfect vehicle. Resting the rifle on the bonnet and all that. Not too worried about it, and it'll be what it'll be.
No, I mean, I'm very OCD especially with my cars. All my cars are spotless and all that, you know. Even a battered Land Rover looks great.
Yeah, arguably better. So how did you find Squire Editions? How did it come about?
Through some advertising I saw, and then through a mate of mine, Dave Pody, who came to you and had his done.
Yeah.
And then there was a bit of a crossover, Kingsman, Squire.
Yeah.
And then I saw his, and then came down to see you. I said, oh, that might look nice. When I finally came down, I'd sent the Land Rover to two different people. The first guy got it a lot different, because I mean, the 110 started off at $7,000, and I just wanted it for bombing around the farm. Load of rust and everything else. Then I wanted something cut out the top so we could see out the top of it, stand in the back, and then it progressed. Then I wanted a new engine. Then I wanted a respray, and then we done the chassis. And it never got to anywhere near what I wanted. It was a pig wrapped in caviar, if you like. Is the best I can explain it. And obviously, you know, I've come to you. I've seen what you can do now. Very impressed. You know, I knew it wasn't going to be cheap, but I'm so far in with this Land Rover that I had to go again.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it'll be what I want. I think it'll be one of the best Land Rovers in the country for sure. So in the meantime, I bought a little 90 to get me around.
And I inevitably will be doing some bits with that.
Do some bits for that for me, yeah. Put a nice cabinet so I can put guns in there if I want, and I lock them up. Because that's the trouble. I mean, we were out shooting the other day and we're near a footpath, and I always take a spare gun. You can't leave them in there. So if I get a nice lock up in there, you know, you're not so worried about it.
No, fair enough. I go back to a couple of the points you raised there. Kingsman. So one of the reasons that we changed from Kingsman to Squire is predominantly for trademark. So it made sense for us to change over to Squire. It's fitting for the brand.
And I was in the movie.
You were, absolutely. Yeah.
Floor, though, I was in the last Kingsman movie, but I never made the screen.
We were discussing some bits up the trundle, and I made a few pointers to say, if anyone will guess who's going to be featuring in the first video, I mentioned about you, a football incident in the late 80s. We're all going to know that. And an iconic film in the late 90s and early 2000s, so reference to the movie side.
The other thing which is nice with my Land Rover, you know, I'm an ambassador for Harkeela. And so we've got the tweed from Harkeela that they make my suit in. And we're going to do the panels in that. So, you know, it's all coming together nicely.
Yeah, I think, remember vividly the first conversation that we had, it was some cosmetic bits that we were going to do to your car. And then it quickly escalated from, we're going to spend a few £1,000s on doing some of these bits, and now we're going back to the bare bones, we're rebuilding a whole lot, you're going to eat your dinner from underneath. I mean,
we kind of went from 20 to 30 grand to 90 to 100 grand, didn't we?
We did, yeah, quite quickly.
It was what I said. I went to a couple of lads that invested in the movie for me, and I said to them, there's two ways we can do this. We can go lock stock.
Yeah.
And try and get away with it and patch it up a little bit and have a good little comedy, or we can go snatch. Where do you want to be? And they went, we'll go snatch. And that's what I've done with the Land Rover, really. I think, you know, all in, it'll be a lifetime motor. I'm having a nice gun made, and the engraving will be the three iconic things in my life. One is Tanya, my wife. The other one will be the Gaza picture. And then the other engraving on the other side plate will be the lock stock picture. So it'll be a one-off like the Land Rover.
Well, hopefully I'm not that person having my head closing the car door this time.
No, well, that was a lump of 6x4 actually.
Was it? Was
and
it
I
really?
smashed it to bits, I can tell you that.
I don't doubt it for a minute.
The sound man was going to do it, and he bottled out. So we got a bit of 6x4, and I smashed the crap out of it.
Yeah. Last question for you. Say here in West Sussex, what brought you to West Sussex? Why West Sussex? I'm sure you've got houses
coming here
everywhere.
30 years.
Yeah.
I was going over to Newmarket a lot. Born and bred in Watford. So, but we was on the outskirts. I was, more countryside than a townie. I'm not a townie. I mean, a lot of people think I'm from South London and all the rest of it, Wimbledon way. I'm not. I'm from Watford, the outskirts, which is countryside. And then I was going a lot to Newmarket, which is very flat, very windy. And then my mate said, he was a gamekeeper, and he said, my mate needs a hand down in Sussex. I said, where's Sussex? West Sussex. So and he said, M25, A3, and you're there. And it was only an hour. So I was up and down. And then I finally, when I came back from America, started coming down to West Sussex to my mate who was a gamekeeper here and helping out and really learning a lot from him from the conservation side. People say to me, you go shooting and all that, but it ain't the shooting. I'd just like to go out and I organise it and I build owl boxes and I all around my farm here, I dug out all the crappy old ditches and all that so the birds can get in and nest in there and that kind of thing, So the conservation is the big side of it for me, and I'm fortunate I can see both sides of it. And I don't think if you're not into shooting, you're not going to convert them. If you are into shooting, you're not going to convert them. It's a massive argument that will go on for years and years and years. But I think the biggest part of the countryside is the conservation. Whether you agree with shooting or not, it is a massive part of keeping. You need the gamekeepers and that to keep corvids and everything else under control. Sensibly, we do have rogue idiots that go and do stupid things. I mean, I'm a staunch lover of birds of prey, and when I see gamekeepers or part-time keepers or blokes that have got guns or going out destroying birds of prey, I wouldn't mind that being in a cell with them for a couple of hours. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And they wouldn't shoot another one. But there are rogue people in every profession, every pastime, every lifestyle. Fortunately, that isn't a reflection on the rest of us.
But you're always going to get that, aren't you? There's going to be the opposite side.
You are, but don't persecute the other 99.9%. Yeah. The trouble is with it needs people middle of the road that understand both sides to tell the truth. It's no good one side lying to make their case biased and vice versa. It needs more people middle of the road to explain to both sides the goods and the bads and the wherefores.
Totally understand.
And that's what I try. And I had a YouTube channel. We'd done 25 episodes. That's all we wanted to do was to get the message over there, and it was called the Crafted Countryman. It served a great purpose, and it showed people that I had an understanding of the countryside. And I think people that didn't know so much about the countryside know a bit more now.
Very much
through my YouTube channel. We may develop that. It may become a mainstream TV show. We'll have to wait and see. I'm very high on the conservation.
Yeah, definitely. A massive countryside ambassador.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Good. Well, I'm incredibly humbled to be sat here chatting to yourself, a massive fan of yourself. So thank you very, very much for giving up your time, which I know is valuable, to have this conversation and for doing the journey we're on. It's going to be a fair journey. I'm super looking forward to delivering the car.
I like your confidence.
Yeah, well, I am. I really am. I've got confidence in it. And
the two previous people that weren't as confident as you, Tom. So hopefully it's going to be a fantastic project. I've got two projects this year. One is my Land Rover and one is this gun I'm having made. So hopefully, there'll be something that I can hand down to my grandchildren.
Absolutely.
In later years. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Do you mind me asking, gun? Who's making the gun for you?
Guy in Sussex.
Yeah.
Dave Sinnerton.
Yes.
Handmade. Yeah. Completely English handmade gun.
The best.
Best of the best.
Yeah.
Same as my Land Rover.
Of course.
From Squires.
From Squires, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Vinny.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate it. So that's it. That's the end of the first episode. We will be releasing some more content in the next episode on the transplant of the X5 V8 engine going into his chassis. Super excited to show you guys about that, so stay tuned for the next episode.